Hello everyone, and welcome to the Stalwart Initiative. I'm Kyle, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Alchemist Specialist subclass for the Artificer for D&D 5e. The Alchemist can be found in the book Eberron, Rising from the Last War. Awesome book. And today we're going to take a look at all the features for the Alchemist. And then I'll go over a comparison, kind of like a damage, healing, general utility comparison from the Alchemist to some other subclasses. And then I'll give you my general opinion on it. So let's take a look at the features. So first up, an Alchemist is an expert at combining reagents to produce mystical effects. Alchemists use their creations to give life and to leech it away. Alchemy is the oldest of Artificer traditions, and its versatility has long been valued during times of war and peace. So, the same with all three of these subclasses, all three of these specialists. Each of them gets their own tool proficiency geared towards their subclass, and this one, the Alchemist gets, obviously, Alchemist supplies. And if you're already proficient with Alchemist supplies, when you get this subclass, you gain proficiency, or you can gain it in another artisan's tool of your choice. At third level, you also get your own Alchemist spell list. Let's take a look at that spell list. There you go. These spells are always prepared for you, and they don't count against your prepared spells. So you always have access to these spells as long as you're at the level that can cast them, as dictated on the list here. So at third level, you gain Healing Word and Ray of Sickness. At 5th level, you gain Flaming Sphere and Melf's Acid Arrow. At 9th level, you gain Gaseous Form and Mass Healing Word. 13th level, you gain Blight and Death Ward. And 17th level, you gain Cloud Kill and Raise Dead. Now, all these subclasses, Artificer in general is a third caster. No, I'm sorry. They're a half caster, not third caster. My apologies. So they're a half caster like Paladin and Ranger. So you are going to get slower access to higher spells, and they'll only go up so far. But this is a pretty decent spell list. Nothing real aggressive. I mean, it's mostly healing and a little bit of damage and a little utility. But yeah, decent spell list. So let's see here. Your main feature at third level for the Alchemist is the Experimental Elixir. So beginning at third level, whenever you finish a long rest, you can magically produce an Experimental Elixir in an empty flask you touch. Roll on the Experimental Elixir table for the elixir's effect. Let's take a look at that table. There we go. Here's the Experimental Elixirs you can roll. As an action, a creature can drink the elixir or administer it to an incapacitated creature. And creating an experimental elixir requires you to have alchemist supplies on your person, and any elixir you create with this feature lasts until it is drunk or until the end of your next long rest. When you reach certain levels in this class, you can make more elixirs at the end of your long rest. So at 6th level, you can create 2 elixirs every long rest, and at 15th level, you can create 3. Roll for each of the elixir's effects separately. Each elixir requires its own flask. You can create additional experimental elixirs by expending a spell slot of 1st level or higher for each one. When you do so, you use your action to create the elixir in an empty flask you touch, and you choose the elixir's effect from the experimental elixir table. So taking a look at these effects for the experimental elixirs, they're all utility based. First up is healing. The drinker regains a number of hit points equal to 2d4 plus your intelligence modifier. So it's already better than Healing Word. And Healing Word's great in a clutch, but this is 2d4 plus your modifier. So at third level, you're looking at 2d4, probably plus somewhere between 2 and 4, maybe 5. I don't know how you would itch that out, but yeah, between 2 and 5 for your modifier. So that's nice solid healing, and that will scale with your modifier. And yeah, the second one is swiftness. The drinker's walking speed increases by 10 feet for 1 hour. So great. Now this can stack. So there's nothing saying that someone can't drink 3 swiftness elixirs and gain 30 walking speed for an hour, because it says it increases by 10 feet. So that's wonderful to think about stacking these. Yes. The next one is resilience, also a great one to stack. The drinker gains +1 bonus to their AC for 10 minutes. They can drink, let's say they drink 3 of these. You use spell slots to be able to pick 3 swiftness ones. I'm sorry, 3 resilience ones, and say they're getting an ally's getting ready to go into a brawl where there's going to be all melee attacks. Well, let's boost their AC by 3 or 4 or 5. Have them drink all these elixirs. Great, good to know. Next up is boldness. The drinker can roll a d4 and add the number rolled to every attack roll and saving throw they make for the next minute. I also don't see any reason why you couldn't stack these. Extra d4s. It's like a little mini bless. Very nice. The 5th one is flight. The drinker gains a flying speed of 10 feet for 10 minutes. This one, unfortunately, does not stack because it doesn't say increases a flying speed, just that it gives it to them. But a flying speed at level 3 for you and allies, very nice, very nice. The 6th one is transformation. The drinker's body is transformed as if by the Ultra Self spell. The drinker determines the transformation caused by the spell, the effects of which last for 10 minutes. That's great. You can, very utility based, and you can use situationally, especially if you're dealing with, like you're going underwater. Very nice to have. So those are your experimental elixirs. Let me get rid of this so you can see there we go. See the document again. Okay. So that is your 3rd level features there for the Alchemist. And next up at 5th level, you have Alchemical Savant. At 5th level, you develop masterful command of magical chemicals, enhancing the healing and damage you create through them. Whenever you cast a spell using your alchemist supplies as the spellcasting focus, you gain a bonus to 1 roll of the spell. That roll must restore hit points or be a damage roll that deals acid, fire, necrotic, or poison damage, and the bonus equals your intelligence modifier, minimum of 1. So this is great and helps offset the fact that the Alchemist isn't a damage-producing wonder, for sure. So that will add at 5th level, you're probably between 3 and 5 for your intelligence modifier. I would hope so, because intelligence modifier is really important for the class in general. But you are kind of pigeonholed in the fact that you have to deal acid, fire, necrotic, or poison. So your best bet really is the Firebolt cantrip. You have Acid Splash 2 that you can use, and Poison Spray. But so this is going to help you with your damage and with your healing. Unfortunately, the healing boost doesn't apply to your experimental elixir because that is not a spell. Unfortunately, I wish that you did get the boost to that. But yeah, that is a nice bonus to give you damage and healing boosts. So restorative agents, this is your 9th level feature. Starting at 9th level, you can incorporate restorative agents into some of your works. This is a fantastic feature and got to be repeatedly useful. So whenever a creature drinks an experimental elixir you created, the creature gains temporary hit points equal to 2d6 plus your intelligence modifier, minimum of 1 temporary hit point. So this is every experimental elixir and every experimental elixir you create. So temporary hit points don't stack, but you don't have to use this on your healing elixir. You can use this on any of them. So they would get at 9th level, hopefully you're at 3 to 5 for your intelligence modifier. So they're gaining 5 to 11 temporary hit points every time they drink an experimental elixir. That's great. That's awesome, giving the experimental elixirs even more utility. See, the other feature of restorative reagents is you can cast Lesser Restoration without expending a spell slot and without preparing the spell. provided you use your Alchemist supplies as a spellcasting focus. You can do so a number of times equal to your intelligence modifier, and you regain all those uses at the end of a long rest. Wow, so you're having 3 to 5 free uses of lesser restoration every long rest. That's great. Doesn't use spell slots, doesn't take up prepared spells or prepared slots. That's great. It's good to have that, and could come useful in clutch moments. The one thing to note here with a lot of functions with these subclasses is that a lot of times you need to have, especially with Alchemist, you need to have that particular tool set to get benefits, to get these benefits here. So with this restorative agents, to use this lesser restoration, you have to use your Alchemist supplies. Also with Savant, I believe that is also, yep, whenever you cast a spell using your Alchemist supplies. So keep that in mind. Hopefully, I would hope that when you become an Alchemist, your DM finds a way to help accommodate that and get you Alchemist supplies, since so many features rely on it. But remember, you don't start with Alchemist supplies. The only tool set you start with as an Artificer is Thieves' Tools. So you want to get those Alchemist supplies as soon as possible to gain all these benefits. So last up, as far as features, you gain Chemical Mastery. By 15th level, you have been exposed to so many chemicals that they pose little risk to you, and you can use them to quickly end certain ailments. You gain resistance to acid damage and poison damage, and you are immune to the poison condition. So 15th level late game, some of those high CR creatures and all that acid and poison damage they're dealing can be pretty brutal, as well as you really don't want to get poisoned at that point, especially if if it's a special kind of poisoned condition. It's great, you're immune to it. You can also cast Greater Restoration and heal without expending a spell slot, without preparing the spell, and without material components. Providing you use your Alchemist supplies, again, with the Alchemist supplies, as the spellcasting focus. Once you cast either spell with this feature, you can't cast that spell with it again until you finish a long rest. So, this is great. You get 1 free use of Greater Restoration and Heal without spell slot, without preparing. You get one of those every long rest. So that's great that you get those, provided you have your Alchemist supplies on you. So, got nice features for 15th level. Not the most mind-blowing 15th level features, but useful nonetheless. So those are the features of the Alchemist. And so what do I think? I really like the Alchemist. Really like the Alchemist. But let's take a look at damage output. So we're going to take a look at damage output, healing, and general utility for the Alchemist. So what I did was I kind of jotted down best case scenario kind of things for the Alchemist in general, not including like certain magic items you can obtain, and other things from other sources, basically just using the player's handbook and Eberron's the book that the Artificer's from in Eberron, using that for comparison. So at 9th level, we're going to go do this 9th level comparison. The Alchemist, as far as damage, yeah, old school paper. Didn't have my phone at the time, so I had to jot all this down by paper. So at 9th level, as far as consistent damage output, the Alchemist is probably best to use Firebolt and a homunculus infusion. So at a 2nd level feature for the Alchemist, for all the subclasses, for the class in general, is the the Artificer infusions. And one of those infusions, which you can get at 6th level, remember we're doing a 9th level comparison here, is the homunculus. So let me see if I have that here. Yep, here's the stats. Oh, that's below. Let's go above. Far above. There we go. The homunculus servant. So if you use this infusion, the Artificer infusion, the homunculus servant, the other 2 subclasses kind of have pets, the Eldritch Cannon with the Artillerist and the Steel Defender with the Battlesmith. The Alchemist doesn't have that. So I recommend one of your infusions being the Homunculus Servant. So with your bonus action, every turn you can command your Homunculus Servant to do not multiple things, but different things. You have the option, but you can have it attack with its Force Strike. So as far as consistent damage output, you're looking at using your Firebolt, which at 9th level will be 2d10, and you can add your 5 damage from your Alchemical Savant. Yes, Alchemical Savant that you get at 5th level. You can add that 5, let's say maximum of 5 damage if you're at 9th level, if your ability modifier is up to 5. And your Homunculus attack, which does scale with you because Homunculus has Might of the Master. So at that point, he'll be doing 1d4 plus 6 force damage. So you can consistently do a maximum of 35 damage per turn. And that's an average of 17.5 damage per turn. At burst damage, this isn't really going to show much for the Alchemist, but I'm going to show this for the other 2 subclasses as well, which you'll see a huge variation there. But you could use Melf's Acid Arrow if you're hitting multiple targets, but a single target damage at 9th level, you're dealing the same damage as you would if you use Firebolt. But if you want to hit multiple targets, because Melfs can hit targets adjacent to the ones you're aiming at, you can deal 5d4 and then add the 5 from Alchemical Savant, and do that spell that at 3rd level. And you can also command your Homunculus to attack, do the 1d4 plus 6 attack damage. So you're dealing 35 damage, which is the same as your Firebolt, and using a spell slot to do it. You might as well save that spell slot for one of the elixirs or something else. So you're not having a lot of damage output as the Alchemist. To compare that, so let's compare the Alchemist damage output of 35 maximum. So what's their average? So 17.5 average damage output. And let's compare that to the Bard, which the Bard is a full casting class utility class. Mostly focused on utility. Let's compare it to their damage output. Now, the 2 subclasses from the Player's Handbook, the Lore Bard and the Valor Bard, also vary in damage output. So let's take a look at the Lore Bard, which can hack the system. So the Lore Bards, this is giving my general example using Player's Handbook material. The Lore Bard can steal Eldritch Blast from the Warlock spell list with one of their class features, their magical secrets, and also steal Spiritual Weapon from a Cleric's list. So a Lore Bard at 9th level can consistently deal 2d10 damage from their Eldritch Blast and a 2d8 damage plus 5 because this the 2d8 damage plus 5 maximum from Spiritual Weapon as with their bonus action. So that's 41 damage, 20.5 average damage consistently. I know Spiritual Weapon takes spell slots, but you're a 5th level caster at that point, or you can cast 5th level spells. You're a full caster. You have lots of slots. So I consider that consistent damage. So 20.5 consistent damage as a Lore Bard, which is higher, slightly higher than the Alchemist consistently. Now, the Lore Bard's burst damage, you can also steal Fireball or Lightning Bolt from the Wizard list, which deals 10d6 damage at that level, and which is 60 max damage and an average of 30 damage per turn, which is which is a lot higher than an Alchemist. Now, contrast to that, the Valor Bard, you really are best to do consistent damage. You don't have any cantrips that deal enough damage to make it worth it. You might as well use their attacks because Valor Bard gets 2 attacks. So if the Valor Bard has optimal damage which would be with a greatsword, so if they're dealing 2d6 damage with a greatsword, 2 attacks, so it's 4d6 damage, and you're adding. Oh, I put 5. I forgot to add another 5 for their second attack. So you're dealing another 5 onto that, 34 max damage each turn. So 17 average damage, and which is pretty much almost right in line with the Alchemist, and their max burst damage, a Valor Bard, is only bursting, it's either Thunder Wave or Shatter, and that's 68 damage at that level. So you're maxing 48 burst damage with an average of 24. So both bards are doing more damage than an Alchemist. Both burst and consistent damage. Although if you look at the hunter, let's take a look at the ranger, and which is also a half caster like the Alchemist, but more martial based. Let's see what their comparison damage is. So a hunter ranger is doing 3 attacks. Let's do this with 2 weapon fighting. So 3 attacks. Your 2 attacks from your attack action and your bonus action attack. Let's say they're doing 3d6 with their attacks plus 15 because you get your modifier if you're maxing that out. If your dexterity's maxed out or strength, so 15 damage plus Colossus Slayer, which would give you another d8 damage if the creature's damaged. And your Hunter's Mark, which at that level, you get 3d6 out of. So a Hunter Ranger is doing consistent damage. I know Hunter's Mark takes a slot, but it lasts a while. You can move it, and you can reuse it in their spell slots. You can consistently do 59 damage, a maximum of 59 damage per turn. So an average of 29.5 damage per turn, which is considerably a lot more than the Alchemist. And coincidentally with the Ranger, both these Rangers from the Player's Handbook, their burst damage is pretty much it's the same as their consistent damage. So Rangers aren't outpouring huge amounts of damage like you would for a Sorcerer, but they can consistently do it, and it's pretty high. It's a lot higher than the Alchemist. So they're consistently doing an average of 29.5 damage per turn. Beastmaster Ranger is just slightly lower than that because they need to use their Player's Handbook Beastmaster Ranger, not revised. They use their 2 attacks, but they have to use their bonus action to have their beast attack. So if you have let's say a wolf attacking 2d4 damage plus 6 at that point, plus 6 at that point, and then your two attacks, and then your Hunter's Mark, the 3d6 Hunter's Mark, they're doing Beastmaster is doing consistent 54 damage maximum, an average of 27 damage, and that goes for both consistent and burst damage. So in comparison, we're taking a look at that. As far as damage, the Alchemist is mediocre damage all around, less than both bards, and definitely a lot less than the Rangers. So, but you know that going in, you know you're not going to be an Alchemist to deal a significant amount of damage. And to note, that is mostly single target damage as well. So you're not doing great AoE either, but that's okay. You're not there for a lot of damage. You're there for utility. So let's take a look at healing. Healing for the Alchemist is pretty good. Granted, if we take a look at it compared to, what did I compare it to? I compared it to the Life Domain Cleric, which is not even fair because the Life Domain Cleric, that's its shtick. It's going to do a lot better healing. And the Oath of Devotion Paladin, which only has access to better spells than the other paladins in the Player's Handbook. That's the only reason it made it in here over the other ones. So the Life Domain Cleric, just to kind of speed this up, the Life Domain Cleric can cure wounds with an average of 26 healing or points of healing if he's casting at 5th level, because they're full casters and they can cast up to 5th level when their character level is 9. So they can do a maximum of 52 points of healing, an average of 26 at that level. And their healing word is an average of 16 points for healing word, whereas the Alchemist's elixirs aren't healing a whole lot, but they're versatile, and at 9th level they're also giving you those temporary hit points. So it does kind of help average out a little bit. But yeah, so they're consistent healers but they're not blowing you away with any burst healing, but like the Life Domain Cleric can do. They also have prayer healing, which is great, especially when you're casting at a 5th level, dealing a maximum of 52 points of healing in one shot. They also have Beacon of Hope, which can max your healing. Yeah, so nowhere near a Life Cleric as far as healing, but consistently useful. The Oath Domain Paladin really only gets to their average. They are also can only cast 3rd level spells like the Artificer at that. So they're only healing a max of 28 with Cure Wounds. And they do have Heroism, which can give you temp HP each turn. They can do Aid, which increases your hit point max and essentially heals you. And they have Aura Vitality. So all in all, they're really, the only comparison there is Lay on Hands, which you can burst 45 points of Lay on Hands as a 9th level paladin. So there's obviously no comparison when it comes to burst healing with the Alchemist, but overall you can heal a lot because you have these elixirs, and you have the temp hit points. You have spell slots to use. So someone can have an elixir and you can heal them with a spell on the same turn. There's so many factors there. So let's take, so my opinion overall, my opinion of the Alchemist overall, let's give this a rating. I'm going to start a rating system right now. Here it comes. We're going to say Sages. We're going to do Sages. In fact, I'll make a little graphic for this. So overall, I say damage output for the Alchemist. We'll say it is, not very high. So damage output overall for the Alchemist, I'd say let's give it 2 out of 5 Sages for damage output. Healing overall for the Alchemist, even though you're not burst healing a lot, you have a lot of ways to heal. You're very versatile for healing. Let's give healing 4 out of 5 Sages for healing for the Alchemist. And overall utility, I love the Alchemist class, my overall thoughts, and I think the utility is there. Not only does it have all these features, but remember, it has the Artificer normal class features. If you haven't seen my Artificer overall review, check out that video for those. So that all those add overall utility. I give the Alchemist 4 out of 5 Sages for overall utility. Thank you so much for joining me, everyone. This has been a look at the Alchemist, the Artillerist, and Battlesmith Specialists. Will be coming out soon. I'll do videos on each of those within the next few days we'll be releasing. And yeah, thank you so much for joining me. Let me know what you like about this review. I'm trying to keep it no longer than it has to be, but I'm not. I'm pretty wordy with everything. But I like a detailed look. I want you to know, get into some gritty details. So, but anyway, thank you so much for joining me. Give me any suggestions in the comments below. I stream on Twitch. We have a community on Twitch, and you can come check that out. I'll leave the link in the description. We do D&D 5e twice a week right now. Also, sometimes some one-shots with viewers, community members. And yeah, I'm going to be doing more content like this, reviewing things, Unearthed Arcana, class releases, book releases, Really gonna be hitting some more. Hit me up with any suggestions, and thank you all so much for joining me, and have a wonderful day. See ya.